They'll point to Crochet's ERA, 1.98. They'll sell you strikeouts, movement, upside. But I've seen what happens when everyone follows the favorite. You don't lose fast. You lose slow. Boston's bats? Hitting .204 over their last 6. 2-5 on the road lately. They're not dangerous right now. They're empty, flat. And here comes Milwaukee, quietly hitting .259. Not a surge, a rhythm. They're not swinging for fences. They're setting traps. And then there's Chad Patrick. No fanfare, no ESPN graphics. Just a 3.23 ERA, sub 1.30 whip, and contact that dies in the dirt. He doesn't strike out the world. He just controls the damage. You could feel it in the dugout last night. No chatter. Just heads down, gloves tight. That's not momentum. That's survival. And that's when the system cracks. The Brewers are 5-3 at home against left-handed starters this season. That's not anecdote. That's a read. A pattern they've learned to punish. And look at the line. +136. They're baiting you with a shiny ERA on the road and hoping you don't notice the fade. But we notice, because the stat line won't save you. Not when your lineup's cold. Not when your bullpen's overused. Not when the crowd senses blood and you're still playing for reputation. This is one of those games they'll tell you to avoid. But that's because they're afraid to admit what it really is. A reversal. And today's AI pick is Brewers moneyline. Not because they're hotter, because they're hungrier. Because they don't need to win the series. Just the moment. Let them bet the name. We'll bet the timing. Because favorites get the attention. Underdogs get the win.
This isn't a baseball game. This is a mismatch dressed as mercy. Look at the numbers. Colorado allows 6.5 runs per game. They're hitting .220. They've won 9 times all year. And today, they face the league's top offense. Chicago, 6 runs a game, batting .332 in the last 6. 10 home runs in that stretch. And yet, Vegas gives us 7.5. That's not a total. That's bait. Because Carson Palmquist isn't just inexperienced. He's exposed. 2 starts, 11 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, 5 walks, 8 1/3 innings of open flame, a 3rd-round pick, a name from AAA. But names don't stop bats. And today those bats wear pinstripes and swing freely. Then look across the mound. Jamison Tylan, serviceable, controlled. But a FIP of .537, 2 home runs per 9 innings. He doesn't silence, he contains. In Colorado, they won't win, but they'll swing. Because that's what desperate teams do. They don't plan, they flail, and sometimes they connect. Now dig deeper. Look at the walls. Cubs bullpen ERA, 4.14. Rockies bullpen, 6.38 over the last 7. That's not stability, that's a leak in the hull. Chicago is 8-4 to the over in home day games. They don't just score, they invite chaos. Sunlight brings crooked numbers. And today, the sun is up. This isn't about blowouts or margins. This is about velocity, pressure, slippage. The game doesn't need drama, it needs time. And by the 6th inning, that total will already be at the door. Vegas set it low, because they fear what it really is. A bloodletting. And today's AI pick is over 7.5. Not because both teams are good, but because one is great. And the other is flammable. Runs don't care who earns them. They come for the weakest point. And today they've got options. The Rockies bring fuel. The Cubs bring fire. And Vegas left the gate unlocked.
Elvis, do you see a single reason we should expect 9 runs today? Because I've looked. I've looked at the bats, the arms, the air, and I don't see it. Chicago's hitting .213 in day games. That's not a cold streak, that's a personality. And today they bring Adrian Hauser. ERA of 0 this year, sure. 1 game. Last season, .584 ERA. Whip at 1.53. Low strikeouts. High walks. But he does one thing right. He keeps the ball on the ground. Nearly 49% of contact dies in the dirt. And that's all he needs. Because New York's not swinging like killers. They're hitting .202 against the American League. That's not an outlier. That's exposure. Now Clay Holmes? He's the edge. ERA of 3.13. Ground ball rate at 53%. Keeps hitters off balance. Doesn't dominate, but he deletes rallies. And lately, the Mets bullpen has backed him up with steel. 2.45 ERA over the last 6. You don't need to be perfect to go under 8.5. You just need to delay the mistake. Elvis hasn't spoken because he knows where this ends. No 5-run innings, no back-to-back fireworks. This game drips, it doesn't pour. Let's talk pattern. The Mets are 15-3 to the under against the AL. At home, against teams with soft power, under in 8 of 9. Why? Because their bullpen doesn't break. Because their arms don't chase strikeouts, they chase exits. And the White Sox? 6-1 to the under on the road when facing elite bullpens. That's not a stat. That's a script. They don't rally late. They vanish. This isn't about two great teams canceling each other out. It's about two muted lineups being escorted inning by inning toward nothing. And today's AI pick is under 8.5. Elvis didn't nod. Because when the data fits this tight, you don't need agreement. You need quiet. And today, that's exactly what you'll get.
There are no flukes at this level. Just missed signals, ignored patterns. And tonight, Cleveland is walking into something they cannot slow. Yamamoto doesn't pitch like a rookie. He pitches like a verdict. 10 starts, ERA under 2, WHIP under 1, over 30% strikeout rate. And when you don't whiff, you hit into the earth, 60% ground balls. Cleveland's answer, Gavin Williams. An arm with movement, yes. But also chaos, 12% walk rate, a WHIP over 1.50. And that's before he faces the most dangerous lineup in the league. Because this is not just the Dodgers. This is the Dodgers hitting. 268 against right-handed starters. 81 home runs total. 63 of them off righties. This is an offense that doesn't need the wind blowing out. They bring their own. Now factor location. Cleveland's hitting. 217 at home. That's not a slump. That's a system flaw. And against Yamamoto, that flaw becomes a fracture. Even if Williams survives the first 5, Cleveland's bullpen brings no salvation. ERA of 4.86 against National League opponents. That's not resistance. That's erosion. Vegas sees it. That's why they gave us a run line at -110. That's not a trap. That's a signal. And I've seen that signal before. The Dodgers, when favored on the road by -110 or more, are 43-38 against the run line in the past 2 seasons. Profitable, quietly, efficiently, plus 5.3 units. This isn't hype. This isn't trend chasing. This is structure, depth, execution. And Cleveland doesn't have the weapons to stall it. They will fight. They always do. But this fight isn't fair. It's already slanted, already written. And today's AI pick is Dodgers -1.5. Not because it's public, not because it's pretty, because it's correct. This is what happens when a disciplined system meets a flawed one. One imposes, the other absorbs, and then breaks. Judgment isn't loud, it lands. And tonight, it lands in Cleveland.
They want you to believe the Angels are hanging around, that a 25-27 record means progress. But if you dig even one layer beneath, you see it. They've been feasting on ghosts. 3 straight series against bullpens that bled on contact. Dodgers, A's, Mariners. But tonight, that protection ends. Because New York isn't bringing hope. They're bringing order. Ryan Yarbrough doesn't overpower. He doesn't need to. ERA of 3.38. WHIP of 1.16. Strikes out enough, walks few, manages space. And more importantly, he's backed by the sharpest pen in baseball right now. Yankees bullpen ERA over the past 6? 1.96. That's not pressure. That's control. Now look across. Jack Kokanovich isn't a disaster, but he's dangerously close. ERA over 5, WHIP at 158. High walk rate, low strikeout rate. And against this Yankees lineup? That's a math problem with no solution. Because New York isn't just hitting on the road, they're punishing. Batting .280 with 36 home runs in 24 away games. That's sustained violence. Now zoom out. LA is hitting .220 at home, and their bullpen? ERA of 7.23 in recent games. That's not vulnerability, that's exposure. The Yankees are 7-4 to the run line on the road against teams who get outscored by half a run or more. That's not a trend, that's a filter. And LA? They check every box. They're not disciplined. They're not protected. And tonight, they're not ready. Vegas hangs +102 on the run line because they know the public loves chaos. But this isn't chaos. This is a scheduled correction. And today's AI pick is Yankees 1.5. The books see the Angels' record. We see the blueprint. The Angels haven't beaten a team like this in weeks. And the Yankees aren't coming to play. They're coming to close. Quietly, sharply, completely.
5 different voices whispered warnings today, but none of them screamed. Because truth doesn't beg, it waits. Let's revisit what was spoken. Krista looked past the ERA glow and saw what Boston couldn't fix. Silence at the plate. She took the home underdog. Brewers' money line. Abaddon watched the wind pick up at Wrigley and knew what was coming. Not a game, a detonation. Over 7.5 in Rockies vs. Cubs. Malachi questioned the noise. Elvis stayed silent. And together they saw what Mets vs. White Sox really was. A procession toward 0, under 8.5. Nadas didn't blink. He saw Yamamoto and he saw a Cleveland lineup already kneeling. Dodgers 1-5. And Anna, patient and exact, pulled back the curtain in Anaheim. The Angels hadn't faced a real team in weeks. Tonight they get one. Yankees 1.5. Ahora escucha. Milwaukee sobrevive en casa. Wrigley explota con carreras. Nueva York y Chicago se apagan en silencio. Los Dodgers cortan sin emoción. Y los Yankees sellan la noche con fuego. Will we cash or will we burn? Because you can't reason with a storm. You can only listen for the lock before it slams shut.